It's 8 p.m. in Banjul. This is the News Force, the headlines. Gambian delegates headed by the Vice President, Her Excellency Dr. NJIE returned from the CSW 60 in New York with a renewed call for action on the Sustainable Development Goals. Access to land and trafficking in persons still show as rural women celebrate International Women's Day in the North Bank region. Authorities in the performing arts industry take stock of the influence of theatre as the international community celebrate World Theatre Day. And Pakistan reels from a devastating suicide attack in Lahore that killed 50 and left over 200 injured. These and other stories coming ahead in this half hour. I am MOMODOU. Christians are commemorating Easter Sunday, the day Jesus Christ rose from the dead after dying on the cross on Good Friday. The Easter Sunday service is preceded by a solemn vigil. At the Cathedral of Our Lady of the Assumption on Saturday night, the chief celebrant, Reverend Robert Patrick Ellison, Bishop of the Diocese of Banjul, focused part of his sermon on the initial disbelief that greeted news of Jesus' resurrection.
Discovered was the stone had been rolled away from the tomb, and then that there was nobody to anoint. You can imagine the surprise or the shock that they must have got. But no sooner did they see what was happening, two men appeared in dazzling garments, exactly as happened when Jesus was transfigured on Mount Tabor. They said to the women, "Why are you looking among the dead for someone who is alive? He is not here." These messengers of God merely confirmed what the women had already observed. But they also added some extra words. He has risen. And they continued, remember, they said, remember how he told you that the Son of Man must suffer and die, and on the third day rise from the dead. They were telling the women there is no point in staring into an empty tomb. As soon as they began to see the situation, they left the empty tomb behind and ran to tell the apostles what had taken place. But this story of the women seemed to be pure nonsense to the apostles. Hardly surprising. First of all, women at that time had no right to testify to such matters. Perhaps it was never happened anyway. Secondly, the apostles were grieving over the loss and the tragedy of the death of Jesus. Most of them had run away that evening when Jesus was arrested. Judas had betrayed him and then disappeared. Peter was still hurting bitterly with the guilt of having denied his master.
Bishop Robert Patrick Ellison there leading the Easter Vigil at the Roman Catholic Cathedral in Banjul. The Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs has reaffirmed government's continuous commitment to the empowerment of women and girls. Her Excellency Aja Dr. Isatunjai Sedi was speaking at the opening of the CSW 60 at the United Nations in New York. The meeting was attended by hundreds of delegates from across the world, and the theme for this year is women's empowerment and its links to sustainable development. Babakar Senghor was listening to the Vice President's speech on day one of the session, and he now reports.
Gambian delegates were among hundreds of others from across the world who descended on New York for the CSW 60 meeting. This year's session has its theme centered on women's empowerment and its links to sustainable development. The opening event saw various women leaders deliver powerful statements on cross-cutting issues about women and girls.
The full and effective implementation of the Beijing Platform for Action is a foundation for sustainable development and other international agreements that promote women's empowerment and compliance with the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women.
Addressing the session on day one of the CSW 60, the Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs touched on the strides made by government in the area of women empowerment.
This year's session is particularly crucial and timely, as the forum will provide a platform for sure to all of us to deliberate extensively on the Sustainable Development Goals, which is 17 goals, of course, and 169 targets. And of course, it would help us also come up with agreed concrete resolutions that can guide the implementation of these very important commitments made on gender equality, equity, and the empowerment of women and girls. Of course, without women, none of these goals or targets can be achieved for sure, and has positively impacted as a result in improving rural women's productivity and food security as well. And this has helped the Gambia reach MDG 1C target of reducing hunger and malnutrition from 13.3% to 6% in 2015, for which His Excellency the President and the entire nation was commended and received an FAO award and commendation indeed.
For a government that has placed priority focus on the development of women and girls, this particular session provided Gambian delegates the opportunity to contextualize our development priorities in a global setting.
We believe that women's empowerment is key to achieving our national visions that I've mentioned earlier on, including Vision 2020 and Vision 2016, and of course 2063 as well. And we'll continue to accord high priority to all of this as a government and continue to provide the resources that are needed as well.
The Vice President's delegation also included key figures from government, among them the Deputy Speaker, Deputy Secretary General, as well as members from the civil society organizations, all of whom took part in various sessions on the sidelines of the CSW 60. Gambian delegates.
Meanwhile, trafficking of girls and access to land were some of the major topics that stole the show when women from all walks of life recently met to celebrate International Women's Day. The program was organized by Activist Action Aid, Youth Network, and the Agency for Development of Children and Women, called At Work. Ibrahim Balde picks up the rest of that story. The general public is hereby informed that following the postponement of the state opening of the National Assembly on Thursday, 17th March 2016 for the 2016 legislative year, the event has been rescheduled to Thursday, 31st March 2016. And as a constitutional requirement, His Excellency the President, Sheikh Professor Dr. Alhaji Yahya Ejeje Jame Babili Mansa, will preside over the ceremony at the new National Assembly building, Banjul, at 4 p.m. All are cordially invited to grace the occasion. In the wake of the recent terror attacks, the European Union ambassador to the Gambia, Attila Lajos, has written a letter addressed to the people of Belgium. It reads, I would like to express my deepest sympathy to the people of Brussels, Belgium, to the many wounded, to the families and loved ones of those squarely hit by the explosions on the morning of 22nd March 2016 at Zaventem Airport and Maelbeek Metro Station. I would also like to express my full support for and solidarity with the Belgian authorities. These attacks have hit Brussels this week, Paris last week, but it is Europe as a whole that has been targeted. The European Union and its institutions stand united in the face of terrorism. In this regard, the European Union delegation to the Islamic Republic of the Gambia has decided to jointly open a condolence book together with the Belgian consulate in Banjul. The condolence book will be placed at the EU delegation in Fajara on Tuesday 29 March 2016 and Wednesday 30th March 2016 from 1000 hours to 1200 hours and 1400 hours to 1600 hours. The message from the EU ambassador to the Gambia ends. Authorities at the Ministry of Health and International Development Partners recently held a press briefing to to take stock of the gains recorded in the fight against TB. Famara Kanye reports.
Since its discovery by Robert Koch in 1882, tuberculosis has been a killer disease in Africa and the world at large. 24th of March every year is set aside to commemorate the World TB Day. In the Gambia, the event took this form: a press briefing where a cross-section of health officials within the TB control program gauge their performance in the fight against the tuberculosis, which according to the WHO continues to kill thousands of people in the sub-Saharan Africa. For the past decade, the government of the Gambia have made significant efforts in the fight against tuberculosis, demonstrated in the series of treatment programs conducted across the country.
In the WHO African region, TB is a major public health concern. This is not only because the region contains 16 of the 30 TB high-burden countries in the world, it also has the highest TB HIV co-infection rates in the world. In addition to that, we are now also getting drug-resistant TB, or MDR TB, which is posing to be a very serious challenge because it comes with a very high cost of treatment and also lack of adequate laboratory capacity to detect MDR TBs.
Tuberculosis being a major concern to the World Health Organization, its eradication therefore becomes a fundamental goal of the WHO.
I am calling on each and every Gambian to utilize one of the most important gadgets that we have got in the fight against tuberculosis, and that is the laboratory. These laboratories, we have got them throughout the country, quality-assured laboratories that are supported by this program to provide quality assurance services. It's a simple technique. It doesn't even involve taking a blood sample, because there is always this challenge of providing a blood sample in a laboratory. Today is not a day to talk about blood, because we diagnose tuberculosis easily by taking a sputum sample.
4 years ago, the Medical Research Council launched the TB-REACH program, targeting children to ensure a TB-free Gambia. This early childhood treatment program is one of the many breakthrough initiatives championed by the MRC to complement the efforts of the government.
The program has enabled us to better quantify the contribution of childhood TB and to overall TB disease in the Gambia. And we have shown that childhood TB contributes to about 6% of the TB notification in the Gambia, when we just only look at the new cases and the retreatment cases. But if it is only the new cases, it contributes to about 7% of the TB notification in the Gambia.
The Ministry of Health and Social Welfare and partners in the health sector are tirelessly working to reduce TB prevalence in the Gambia by 2017. For GRTS News, I am Famara Kanye.
Authorities in the performing arts industry and other affiliate partners on Saturday joined the international community to celebrate World Theatre Day. The event was set aside by the UNESCO to take stock of the significant role played by theatre in society. Ibrahim Jallo attended the celebration and filed this report.
MOMODOU Development Hub was the grounds for the celebration of World Theatre Day, attracting artists, drama groups, and theatre enthusiasts amid fanfare and cultural exhibitions. This year's event marks the 54th anniversary since the advent of World Theatre Day on 27 March 1951, and the 6th edition observed locally in the Gambia. The theme for this year's event is Theatre Entrepreneurship, a way for gainful employment. The manager of MOMODOU Development Center, Mati Job, called for collaborative efforts in nurturing young people's talents in a bid to create employment and bring about national development. The president of Gambia Theatre Association, Ahmad Silla, revisits the development of theatre industry in the country, which according to him is crucial for peaceful coexistence.
Celebrate the power of theatre to strengthen cultural exchange and mutual understanding between people across borders, as well as attract the attention of the wider public to the art of theater. If I may add, we are commemorating this day because of our appreciation of theater as a communication tool and the immense contribution it makes to society, both mentally, physically, and economically.
Alhaji Nyang of the Ministry of Youth and Sports described theater as a way of employment creation, adding that his ministry is open to all organizations focused on the development of this crucial sector.
Youth constitute most of the population of the world, and if you come down to the Gambia, almost 63% of the population of the Gambia are youth. So you're talking about more than half of the population of the Gambia being youth. Now, when that half of the population of the Gambia are not empowered and given the right skill, talent, and opportunities, then development will be questionable. And that is why the Ministry of Youth and Sport is doing whatever it could and is trying to partner with every organization and every youth organization in order to create gainful employment for youth.
The Director of Creative and Performing Arts of the National Center for Arts and Culture, Sheikh Omar Jallo, delivered a speech on behalf of the Minister of Tourism and Culture, Benjamin Roberts, reflecting on the ideals of theater as an avenue for peaceful cohesion and economic development.
This year's theme is to make some reflections on the development of our theater industry in terms of gainful employment. How and where are the potentials that we need to garner so as to develop the industry? In other words, how theater production can contribute in our national blueprint agenda. We show our appreciation of theater as a communication tool and immense contribution it harnesses in society, both mentally and economically. Theater can add to the quality of life for people and enable them to lead rich, creative, and fulfilling lives, and to achieve their true potential.
The ceremony was punctuated with musical performance, poetry rendition, and drama performances, which were anchored on the spirit of Pan-Africanism and African unity.
The land of abundant resources, the land of dignity, pride, and self-esteem, and the land in which Africans seek shelter.
Ibrahima Jallo, GRTS News.
The Institute for Human Rights and Development in Africa, IHRDA, on Thursday handed over the Human Rights Manual for Gambia law enforcement agencies to law enforcement agencies. The presentation of the manual, as we hear in this report by Janke Toure, is aimed at contributing significantly to build the human rights capacity of the Gambia's law enforcement corps.
In the context of its mission to strengthen human rights protection and promotion in Africa, the Institute of Human Rights and Development in Africa launched the project dubbed Human Rights Capacity Building for Gambia Law Enforcement Agencies in October 2015. The main component of the project was a series of intensive human rights training workshops for law enforcement officers across the Gambia. The overall objective of the presentation of the manuals developed by the Institute of Human Rights and Development in Africa is to fully equip officers with a view to getting them to uphold and protect the rights of the citizenry and persons under the custody, thereby promoting an atmosphere of trust and respect for the law and law enforcers.
When we got into this project, what we had in mind wasn't just about training. You know, for those of you, we have trained a total of more than 340 police officers from all the divisions. So, training based on our laws, our domestic laws. One of the biggest we had in mind was, putting in place a manual. Some of the topics covered include what human rights are, what rights are human beings entitled to, where do human rights come from?
The presentation was attended by high-profile dignitaries, among them the British ambassador to the Gambia.
I'm delighted with how well it's gone. We've exceeded the expectations in the numbers that we wanted to train, and the feedback has been consistently very positive. I think, as Gay says, he's still getting inquiries from people wanting further clarification to know more, and it's only positive in my view. And I'd like to pay tribute to all the law enforcement organisations who participated in the project, and to IHRDA for the excellence in their delivery.
The Deputy Inspector General of Police, MOMODOU, thanked the British ambassador for the funding, what he called an important document, but not without urging officers to make good use of the resource.
It is very nice to be given a booklet. It is not as large as volume 3 or volume 5. So please, it is a reader, a digest, and an understandable document that requires your attention as long as you have in possession of it.
A critical mass of officers received training on human rights under the project. The manuals will no doubt help further those gains and perhaps deepen interest in the protection of the rights of citizens and those in custody. Janke Toure, reporting for GRTS News.
What an unfortunate time to attack when some parts of the world are celebrating Easter. Find out after the break how the city of Lahore is reeling from a suicide attack. Welcome back. A state of emergency has been installed in Lahore as the city is trying to recover from a suicide attack that claimed 50 lives and left over 200 persons injured. The incident took place on Easter Sunday around 6 p.m. As we hear in this report by CNN Sophie Saifi, most of the victims were women and children.
There's a state of emergency in hospitals across the city of Lahore. Lahore is one of the largest cities of Pakistan, and as you know, it's Easter Sunday. It was Easter Sunday, it was 6 p.m. when the suicide attack took place in this crowded park. We've been told by security officials that the park, the part of the park which was attacked was the children's park. Was the children's area of the park where children were playing. It was more crowded than usual. It was a Sunday evening, and that is why a lot of the people who have been injured and killed were families who'd gone there to celebrate and just enjoy their holiday and their day off. We're also getting information that the suicide bomber had around 10 kilograms of explosives strapped onto him. There has so far been no claim of responsibility, but there's complete chaos at the scene as Pakistani security officials try to figure out and understand what exactly was the reason behind this attack.
Security officials clashed with protesters as they chanted anti-immigrant slogan. Shock and sympathy turned into anger when right-wing protesters took over a memorial session of the victims of the recent Brussels attack. CNN's Alexandria Field reports.
It has settled down, but this is exactly what police were concerned about today. They are pursuing these manhunts related to the two attacks this week. They want all of the police resources to be able to be devoted to those manhunts, and instead you saw this large presence of police in this square that has largely been a place where people have come to peacefully remember and commemorate the victims of these deadly attacks. Instead, police in riot gear had to intercept because you did see this backlash from this right-wing group. Hundreds of nationalists pouring into this square where some were here to remember the victims. They were shouting anti-immigrant sentiments. They were doing Hitler salutes. They were setting off some firecrackers. The police in their riot gear did come in. They were able to move this group out of the square in really under an hour, but it did take the use of crowd control vehicles. There was some water that was let off from water cannons that were on those vehicles, and this was really just a showing of the tensions that are under the surface as they came to a head today. You had this liberal group on the steps supporting immigrants, calling for unity, saying that Brussels is a multicultural place, saying we are all sons of immigrants, and you had against them this faction really loudly proclaiming their thoughts against immigrants. And probably the most poignant imagery throughout all of this is the fact that these two parties who were shouting at each other, demonstrating against one another, were separated by a mound of flowers that have piled up here, been left here this week to commemorate the 28 victims who were killed in those two attacks, Nick.
Alexandra, clearly this is a very angry fringe element within Belgian society, but what kind of support does the extreme right have in Belgium?
Welcome to the sports segment. The national teams of the Gambia and Mauritania are in the country ahead of the two-side second-leg tie of the 2017 African Cup of Nations qualifiers. The Mauritanians were the first side to arrive on Saturday morning, followed by the Scorpions who arrived later in the day. Our sports reporter MOMODOU Diallo spoke to some of our players shortly after their arrival, starting with team captain.
After you played against Mauritania, you lost narrowly by 2-1. Tell us, what was the feeling like?
Well, it's really disappointing. I mean, with the preparation and with the mentality we got, it's really frustrating. But it's part of the game, you know. So we went there all out. We give everything we got, you know. We fight till the end, but you see, they scored in the last minute of the game. So it's really disappointing. When you give your everything and then at the end of the game you lose, it's really disappointing. But we can bring the game back unless to wait for the second leg. We could do whatever it takes to make the people proud. To win the game. Yeah.
You were handed the captain band. What a moment was that for you?
Well, yeah, I was a bit surprised, but everything. It's hard working. I've worked hard, but. And then to be a leader it's not something easy, So, I try to put the pressure down and then just be a leader on and off the pitch, And then the boys are always with me, so it's something I've worked for, Yeah.
After the game, I know a lot of the boys would be down.
Well, I just told them, well, it's part of the game. It's about winning and losing. Nobody want to lose, Everybody was disappointed, but we couldn't bring the game back, The only thing we could do is to put our heads up and then wait for the return leg. So we could give everything we got to get the 3 points, because you could see the group is really critical now, and Cameroon and South Africa, they drew 2-2. So there's still more chance, We can still make it, a comeback.
To be fair, it's probably the worst feeling that I've had in football for a very long time. But a lot of people have said, the referee and the circumstances of what was going on over there. But at the same time, we're all professionals, and I think we should have done better to deal with the situation and not concede that late in the game.
Attention now shift to the next game, which is Tuesday.
Yeah, obviously the game was only yesterday, so we've got a few more days to prepare for the game, but we'll be ready, and we'll go out attacking and fighting, and hopefully we can put on a show for the fans that are going to be there to watch.
Can you just take us through the game in Nouakchott?
Yeah, first of all, I'm glad to be home with the guys and the team. About the game, it was a difficult game. We went away and the crowd was against us. The referee, I think we did well as a team because we didn't play before all together, with some of them. And I think we have a good team spirit, and there's still a chance. Nothing is over right now.
How would you respond after that disappointing defeat in Nouakchott?
Yeah, I think we are really disappointed. We worked hard, the whole team, the week, the days before the game, and we went through the game, and we did so well. Like 10 seconds left on the scores, it's hard to take. It's hard to take, but there's still a chance because the others drew, and now we need to get ourselves together and hope we can get support from the whole country so that we can try to get 2 wins against them and South Africa.
How are you guys going to approach that game?
No, we're just going to be ready and pray to get the 3 points because we know that they are not better than us. We just consider goals by mistake, but I think we will be fine on Tuesday.
Are you going to see a different MOMODOU come Tuesday at the Independence Stadium?
Definitely. They're going to see something different on Tuesday, because on Tuesday we all want to go out and make the country proud and the supporters, so it's definitely going to be a different game because the pitch was not the best for us, but now we are home.
The result was disappointing, We played very good and the conditions was not favorable. It was very, very hot, and we played on an astroturf, and the condition on an astroturf on a hot sun. Plus the ground was very, very hard, so it was difficult, but we managed, you understand, but the overall performance was good, but at the end it was disappointing because we lost the game. We are very, very well prepared, and we are hoping to give a respectable performance on Tuesday.
MS Diallo speaking to some of our players shortly after arrival from Mauritania. And before we take leave of you, a recap of the day's main stories. Gambian delegates headed by the Vice President, Her Excellency Dr. Ajah Aissatou Njie Sedi, have returned from the CSW 60 in New York with a renewed call for action on sustainable development goals. Access to land and trafficking in persons have stolen the show as rural women celebrate International Women's Day in the North Bank region NBR. Authorities in the performing arts industry have been taking stock of the influence of theatre in society as the international community celebrate World Theatre Day. And Pakistan is reeling from a devastating suicide attack in Lahore that killed 50 and left over 200 injured. That's all we have for you now. Join us at 10 o'clock again for more news. Until then, I am your presenter, MOMODOU.